Oh, hey, hi, hey, ho, hi, hey, episode 10 of our Descent series, where we're going to be painting something that's probably the hardest miniature I've painted in this set so far. There's a lot of crap going on, but we're going to get through it. I'm going to try and explain as best I can and show a little bit more video than normal to get you through it. But first off, I want to thank our YouTube members. You guys are awesome. You help make this channel possible. So thank you so much. If you want to become a YouTube member, you can go to the main page and click on that. But if you want to subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, hit that little bell button. We're going to finish out this series as we're coming close to the end. I only got a couple minis left. But without further ado, let's go. Obviously, the first thing we're going to be doing is scraping off all those nasty mold lines. Like I've said before, these miniatures are fantastic, so there's not a whole lot of mold lines on them. They did a great job on that. We're going to then prime it in black. You can use spray paint, but I'm using an airbrush with black primer and then white primer from above. Again, you can use spray paint if you want, and I would use Citadel or Army Painter or Vallejo, one of those three, if you're doing that. We're going to do this in a 5-step process because doing the whole base paints and then doing everything else kind of, I don't know, I don't want to do it that way. So we're going to do it in each segment. So the first thing we're going to do is the base. I'm going to take some Creed Camo, which is a contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to paint the grassy area in between everything and on our, between our little swirl from the depths of hell is what I like to call it. So, we're going to do that first. And just like the last miniature we painted, the Zealot, there's going to be some mushrooms. So we're going to be taking some colors. First one is Akhelian Green, and we're going to be picking out mushrooms. Now, there's no way to do this. There's no right, there's no wrong. Whatever you feel like. If you want to use different colors, be my guest. This is just the ones I picked out because they're vibrant and colorful like this miniature. Next, we're going to use some Gryph-Hound Orange on another mushroom, and I'm just going in random order. There's no rhyme or reason to the color scheme I'm using on these. For the rest of the miniatures, we're going to use a couple other colors, one being Talassar Blue and Iyanden Yellow. Now, I'm not going to use a red color for any of the mushrooms because the red is going to go on the swirl as they're coming up from the depths. Is how I imagine it in my head. They're being ordered here by Satan, whoever, or probably the end boss of the game, that I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but something like that. For the stems of our mushrooms, we're going to be using some Wyldwood. And for our swirl, we're going to be using some Blood Angels Red. Now, I'm only using this contrast color because that white's going to stick out. It's going to give it that nice contrast, basic look from painting or spray painting the white over it. So you can go over it again if you want to use something like Fire Dragon Bright or something similar. I just decided that was good enough. It looks fine because we got a lot left to paint on this miniature, and this is probably the easiest part. So we're just going to stick to that. To bring up our grass a little bit, to make it like kind of look like blades of grass, we're going to use some Moot Green, just picking out some blades and adding some nice color variation. And we're just going to use one single color for all of our mushroom caps on the circles that you can see, and we're going to use Corax White to pick out those circles. Now begins probably the most tedious portions of this miniature, the fur and the skin. We're going to start with the fur / green skin because we're following the card art provided by Citadel. So we're going to take that Kabalite Green, and we're going to start painting this. Now, just follow along. This segment's going to be long, and I'm not going to be talking through the whole portion of it, but we're going to be going through it. And if you need to pause it and look to see exactly where I painted, pause it and continue on. You can probably tell I'm using a bigger brush. I'm not using my normal Rosemary & Co. brushes. I'm using a brush that I ordered off a Kickstarter a while ago. They're Ghost dry brushes, and they have regular brushes. So I'm using that just to kind of slap it on to make the process go a little bit quicker, because it's a bigger surface area with this brush instead of my normal size 1 brush that I typically use. Something that might be helpful while you're doing this is bringing up the picture. You can Google it. Just type in Fae Descent Legends in the Dark, and it should pop up. And it's a nice big photo that Fantasy Flight was nice enough to put together for everybody. And as we're finishing up the green portion of the fur and skin, we are hitting the hands of our bottom miniature and the top portion of the head of our Fae on top. Once you've done both miniatures in the green, we're going to take some Magos Purple, which is a contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to start putting that into the green. Now, when you're looking at the card art, you can notice that the purple and the green are mixed together, and I figured this was the easiest and best way to do that without going overboard or doing something crazy that's going to take 3 hours for one miniature. We ain't got time for that. Nobody's got time for that. So we're just going to mix in that portion of that and just follow along what I'm doing. Now, it should be noted that we're only using this Magos Purple on the fur portions of the miniatures. The skin green portions of this, we are not using this on there, because we're going to be using a wash here in a second. And as I just previously mentioned, we're going to be using some Coelia, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, Grenshade. We're just going to say Grenshade. It's the blue-green Grenshade from Citadel. And we're going to be using this on the skin portion of our miniature. Once that is dry, we are going to take some Kabalite Green, what we just used, and we're going to start highlighting up our fur and skin. For the fur, we want to hit some of the major areas as far as the blades that are sticking up on the fur, and the skin we're just going to start doing like we normally would if we were painting skin, except with green. For our highlight on this, we're going to use some Sybarite Green, and for this, we're going to do it the same way we're doing skin. We're going to be painting up the raised areas and the portions of skin that are on the wings, and bits and pieces of fur. Again, there's no right or wrong way. There's no specific piece of fur that you need to paint versus that you don't paint. It's all what you see and what you want to do and accomplish in this miniature. Obviously, you don't want to go overboard, but you do want to hit specific areas to make that light green stick out from the purple that we put on and the Coelia Grenshade. So just follow along. And as we're picking out our last pieces, this is going to end the green skin / fur step of our miniature. So that was kind of a pain, but we're now moving on to a bigger pain. We are now going to start with the skin portion. Now they are half elf, half demon, half fae. I don't know what they are, but they do have skin. So we're going to paint some Cadian Fleshtone all over the skin portion and the face. You want to be a little cognizant on the face because when you're looking at it, there's obviously some lips that they have, tongue, teeth, and on the middle fae, there is a squid-looking thing on his face. I don't know what that is, but we're going to paint that here in a little bit. And for this, I downsized my brush to a size 1 brush to get a good surface area, but to also get a little bit more control over my paint. While you're painting this and you want to take a break, head over to our Instagram, nerd.nights. We're always posting stuff. I need to do a better job of posting what we're going to be doing in the future and miniatures that are going to be coming up on the channel. But go subscribe over there if you got a second. Alright, let's go back to painting. And again, we're focusing on the face and the legs of our miniatures. As we're hitting up that small area on the bottom fae, you're going to see that the surface area you're painting is going to start getting smaller. So if you want to switch to a smaller brush, I highly recommend it. I feel like I was okay with this, but on the backside I ended up switching to a smaller brush because the area gets really tight back there. Same with the face on the top fae. While that is drying, we're going to use some Volupus Pink on the top fae only's tongue. For the middle fae, we're going to use some Shyish Purple on his tongue to give it that nice different color and match the card art. Of all of our fae, we're going to use some Wraithbone. If you don't have this color, you can use Reikland Flesh, you can use Magos Bone, you can use Ushabti Bone, but we're going to be using some of those colors here in the next step after we wash that. So if you got it, use it. For the lip area of our bottom fey, we're going to use this Sybarite Green that we'd already used before. We probably should have done this in the last step, but I didn't realize what color I was going to use until it was too late. For the lips of the top fey, we're going to use Leviadon Blue, which is a contrast color from Citadel. I was really having a hard time matching that color. For the middle fey, we're going to be using some Spacewolf Grey. Again, a hard color to match. I didn't know exactly which one to use, so this is the best I came up with. For the nose of the top fey, we're going to be using some Magos Purple. We're going to be using this color a lot in the upcoming steps, so keep it out. For the nose of the bottom fey, we're going to use a two-color combination. First, we're going to use a wash, which is Druchi Violet, and want to use it on the half left of the nose. We are then going to take some Aethermatic Blue, which is a contrast paint, and paint the tip of the nose to about the middle. That's going to give us the nose that we need to match the card art. For the horns of the bottom fey, we're going to be using some Dryad Bark. And for the little horns sticking out on our top fey, we're going to go back to our Sybarite Green. You see a pattern here. I keep forgetting which thing needs to be painted where. For the squid nose on our middle fey, we're going to be using some Pink Horror. Now just be a little careful. You should be able to see the lines, but it looks like a squid. It's got like tentacle arms and stuff. Now to do our washing step, because we're going to use a couple washes. The first one being Reikland Fleshshade. We're going to use this on all of the skin, hands, everything. So put that all over that bad boy. Be careful though not to hit that green fur and skin we've already painted. So be a little cognizant. For the mouth, specifically the teeth, we're going to use some Agrax Earthshade. Again, be careful. Don't try and get it on the tongue or on all over the lips, but it's not a big deal. For the bottom one, you can put it on the lips, then you can highlight it back up with Sybarite Green. You just want to be a little careful. Once that Reikland Fleshshade is done drying, it shouldn't take very long as you didn't dunk it in there. We're going to start highlighting up our skin. Now we're going to be going over the raised areas, and we're going to be painting skin like how we always paint skin. We're not doing anything differently. We are going over. Make sure you're thinning your paints. You want a nice consistency that is consistent with skim milk. You do not want very thick, gloppy, gloopy paint. It's going to look like crap. So just be very careful. We want to hit up the hands, the knuckles, the hands, the fingers, the tops of the ears, certain things that are going to just kind of present themselves a little bit more. But we will basically want to go over the entire miniature again with this specific color. Just make sure when we're painting those specific areas that have our wash in the recesses, we are not going in there with our paint. We are just hitting those top areas, specifically the hands and some of your toes and feet, as the recesses are dark, and you want to keep it that way. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Kislev Flesh and Cadian Fleshtone, and we're going to start downgrading how much we're painting. We're going to be hitting a lot of those raised areas again, but we are doing a little bit less. If we had done 100% on the last one, you want to do about 60. Little less each time we're painting this. And for our final color of skin highlight, we're going to use some pure Kislev Flesh. Now we're using this extremely sparingly. We want to use this like on the knuckles, the fingers, the tops of the ears, cheekbones, some chins, some certain areas that are going to be kind of a focal point when you're looking at the miniature. To paint up our teeth, we're going to take some Ushabti Bone. Now I'm using a very small brush on this one, just so I cannot go overboard. It's easy to get in those recesses of the teeth, so I'm going to paint basically the whole tooth, or each teeth, with Ushabti Bone real quick. And then I'm going to take some of that Screaming Skull, and I'm going to paint the bottom portion of our tooth or teeth. We are going to paint just the ends of them, just to give them that nice whiter color. For our nose, we're going to brighten up just a little bit with some Emperor's Children. And for our horns, we're going to be doing some highlight of Doombull Brown. And as our last step on this specific step of our miniature, we're going to take some Black Templar. If you don't have this color, just use some Abaddon Black or whatever black you have. And we're going to paint some nails. Some black nails on the hands and the toes on all three of the fays. Now probably the second easiest portion of this miniature, we're going to do the wings and the magic spells that they are about to cast. The first thing we're going to do is take some Aethermatic Blue, and we're going to put it on portions of the bottom and the left spell that the fays are casting. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just going to mix the colors together basically. We are then going to take some Ultramarine Blue, which is another contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to put it on randomly again on the left and right spell. And we're going to go back to our Magos Purple well, and we're going to put it again onto our spells, and then we're going to use this color here in a second, so keep it out. We're going to paint our wings with a contrast paint. Now, when you're looking at the art provided by Fantasy Flight. It's a very hard thing to paint with just regular colors. It would have taken too long. It would have been a pain in the butt. So let's just use some contrast paint. So we're going to basically paint about 3/4 of the wings on the front and the back with Magos Purple. And while it is still wet, we're going to use Aethermatic Blue here in a second. Take some of that Aethermatic Blue and you want to hit it in the bottom regions of the wing on the front and the back. You can also just put little dabbles throughout the wing to include the tips that are flying and just edges. It doesn't need to be any rhyme or reason. It doesn't need to be this way or that way. It can be whatever way you want, just as long as those color schemes kind of match that. Once that is dry or dry enough on the top of the stars on the wings, we're going to take some Dorn Yellow. We're going to paint that eye. Now the eyelid or slit for the eye on the bottom spell is already there, so you can just kind of paint around that eyelid if you want, or you can re-highlight it up with some black if you got some in there. It's not a big deal if you did. It's easy to fix. We're going to take that and do that, and then we're going to do all the stars on the wings. Finally, the rim of the base. That was kind of a pain in the butt. It took a lot. It took a lot of time. I know it did, but you did a great job. You made it through. You're fantastic. You did it. And look how good it turned out. Could it be better? Of course. But we're not going to spend a month painting one miniature. You crazy? We got to get this on the table. We got to get playing this game. That's why we're doing this. Unless you just like painting minis. You don't even care about playing the game. But whatever. So yeah. Thank you for watching. If you're a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Or if you want to become a YouTube member, head to the front of the page in the YouTube join channel. So thank you for all that, and I'll see you in the next one. Paint on.